1, 2, 3. Hello, and welcome to X-Rated, the X-Men animated review show. I am your host, Davin, Genosha prisoner number 47, and my co-host...
A snow demon!
No, it's not a snow demon, it's Undrabertooth. He's reading right now, but he's reading X-Men.
Davin, is that you? I didn't realize. I was just lost in a good book, a good executioner song, if you will.
Well, I hate to trouble you, but we're already starting an hour late, so you can read that.
Well, I was reading. It was important. I was reading X-Men comics. I feel like that's a good reason to be late, and not the fact that I have an incredibly hectic, busy life that you are a saint to put up with.
Well, I
don't think you knew you were getting into.
To put up with me pestering you to show up on time.
I like that. That's a very subtle dig, which are my favorite kind. So very nice. All right. Well, welcome to the show.
Say thank you.
Oh yes, thanks for joining us, everybody.
Yes, thank you everyone for joining us in our seventh. What episode is it? 7th episode of the X-Rated podcast, in which we discuss the every episode of the X-Men animated series from Fox in the early to mid 90s. I am Andre Bertooth, also known as Andre Mayette, and it is a pleasure to be here. Davin, you're drinking beer tonight, are you?
I am drinking beer tonight, yes.
Since we're always drinking, and I don't often, and I do.
Are you trying to imply something here?
No, not at all. I drink a lot too. I just never think to do it while we're doing this, and it's a good idea. So in your honor tonight, I got
good
Steinhardt Habanero Vodka.
Oh, sweet.
Yes. So this is from Aerosag. I'm gonna do a shot live on air because I never tried it before.
Oh my.
And I feel as though, just so you can see,
I'll do a drink with you.
All right. Well, we didn't really get to do this last time. We probably should have, because it is a new year, And we should toast to a new year.
We should.
So to 2022, my friend, and to everybody out there. Yes.
2022. Okay.
It tastes like habanero.
Very nice.
Wow, it really does, actually. It's quite good if you like hot stuff.
A little spicy.
Yeah, very good.
Yeah,
all right, today,
nice.
Episode 7, Slave Island.
Directed by Larry Houston, who directs every episode of this series, so we may not mention that every episode, but suffice it to say, Larry Houston directs every single episode of this series.
I like how you said it like it's a surprise, like we all should know Larry Houston, like, Larry Oscar award winner.
More like I feel like we should have mentioned it by now.
No, that is a good point. If he directed all the episodes of the show, then yes, he definitely deserves some accolades and a lot of attention. Thank you, Larry Houston, wherever you may be.
Sorry for passing over you 5 times.
6, actually. This is episode 7. So,
because
one was 2 episodes. So this is the 7th. This is the 7th episode or 8th episode 6. Of the series, right?
You're counting the wrong direction, but that's fine. It's late.
Well, it's the habanero vodka. It's already taken effect.
The episode writer is Mark Edward Edens, who also wrote the Night of the Sentinels 2-parter.
I wonder how many writers overlap with comics. Like, I'll have to pay attention to that, how many comic writers show up in the writing credits for the show, because the show borrows heavily from X-Men comics, which is probably why it's beloved so much. And almost every storyline this season, which I didn't mention last time, are all based on Chris Claremont comics, which is cool. So, who is,
so is this one.
Yes, it sort is. Kind of. This one is a little over the map, but let's get into it since we have a time crunch tonight because we both have busy lives. So continue.
Mutants of Genosha, a new day begins.
One of my favorite lines is coming up, and I hope you have it on your board. And knowing you, I think you probably do. So at the end of the last episode, we got Wolverine hanging out with fighting Sabretooth in the Arctic, the wilds of the Canadian Arctic, which in fiction could be downtown Toronto. It's just a tundra. As long as it's Canada, it's ice everywhere and snow.
It's cold. That's all people need to know.
It's cold and there's snow. There's probably some Inuit nearby. It doesn't matter what part of Canada you're in. That's what you're going to see.
Oh yeah. So our previously on X-Men. Here's how.
Yes. So 3 of our X-Men went off to go check out Genosha, which is a South American country, which is an island, and is promoting that they're welcoming mutants to come and come to their island. To which Gambit, Storm, and Jubilee go off to investigate, and very quickly fall into a trap, almost immediately, in fact, because it is a big ruse to lure mutants to their island for slave labor, which is odd, which is a very odd motivation.
For 10%. For 10%.
You get 10% off your stay if you're a mutant, and you have to build a dam in slave labor. But aside from all that, 10%, nothing to see.
Just a dam. How long could it take?
I wonder if they still get charged, because they rang through when they got their room. So I wonder if they are villains, I guess. So I wonder if they still charge them the rate for the room. Even they didn't really get to stay in it, and then became slaves.
10% off something, right?
The leader has promised that you mutants will be released once this dam is built.
Yeah, so that...
this dam. It's like they're enslaving people to build a dam. It's like, can you just hire people?
It's very strange. It's very strange motivations for the villains in this, which we can get into as we go. But
this is a weird one.
Yeah, it is. It kind of goes into like this, like the government and destabilizing, dictatorships in South American countries. So it gets oddly political in a weird way. But then, like the guy that's set up as that was a dictator, that's the leader now, looks like he looks like Benjamin Franklin. He's wearing like a Benjamin Franklin wig, and thus far,
at least he's just called the leader.
Yes, in old timey robes, and it's very odd. But tell me
this
something.
Guy.
Yes, in the original, look at the old, like his little assistant brushing off his costume there.
That's pretty hilarious, actually.
That's a very good. He's just brushing. He has a little brush to like get the lint off his costume.
That's subtle, but pretty sweet.
So in the original story, does Cable show up in this too? I saw him on the cover you showed. Was that an adaptation of this this story for the X-Men?
You mean in the actual comic?
In the actual Chris Claremont story where they introduced
No, there's no Cable in this story.
I thought it was odd that he was introduced here too, which we'll get to as well. So
this series has been like throwing in those couple of scenes that kind of leads you into the next episode
and I think that's part of the charm. I mean, the show has a lot of charm, but I think part of it is that they're especially in this episode, they're sprinkling mutants everywhere, like familiar mutants that you know from the comics, that just pop up in different roles, especially slaves here in Genosha. There's a lot of
cameos galore.
Yeah, cameos galore. We got Sunfire, we got North Star, Aurora shows up later too. The Blob, Avalanche, I spotted, Wolfsbane.
Yeah, there's Blob there. We got Blob. Feral. Yeah. It wasn't Wolfsbane, it was Feral from
is that her name from X Factor?
No, that wasn't X-Force. That was Feral from X-Force, not Wolfsbane from
Wolfsbane?
X Factor.
Doesn't she look the same?
Wolfsbane's from New Mutants.
Oh, that's right. That is right. Feral.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And then there's a few here. We got like Pyro there and Mystique.
Yes, and who's the green and white one? That's the one I couldn't recognize.
Okay, the only thing I can think there, and I'm probably wrong about this, is I feel like they looked at the cover of an X-Force comic, because they're really X-Force heavy with their cameos, really 90s X-Force.
Yeah, Cannonball.
I feel like they thought Richter was a female and just made that Richter a female.
But there's a guy early on.
Because she has Richter powers.
In the pile of mutants, there's a guy that looks very much like Avalanche.
Avalanche is here too.
Yeah, okay, cool. Because I was going to say, I'm pretty sure that was him as well. So
it's funny because Pyro and Avalanche show up later and they're like chatting to the X-Men and stuff, and it's just like funny how they never mention. It's like, hey, remember that time we were all slaves together on Genosha? It's like it never comes up.
Hey, didn't I see you building a dam in Genosha?
Yeah.
All right, so our three X-Men awaken in the Genoshan prison camp, and we are introduced to the inhibitor collar, which is placed around their necks to stop their mutant abilities, which we learn a little bit more about later. When they're temporarily turned off to work. So as we talked about, it turns out the leader of this country has kidnapped all these mutants and wants them to help build a dam. That dam, of course, being in a very roundabout way to power a master mold, we're going to get to later. But
and speaking of the collars,
yes,
if you try to remove your collar, it will explode and destroy you.
Very Suicide Squad-y.
We're
also destroy you. It won't kill you. It'll murder you. It'll destroy you.
And we have another word used instead of kill in this episode too that we'll get to later.
All right, so we'll get to the master.
We should keep a running tally of how many words they can use instead of just saying
you know
kill.
what? We should get the Habanero Vodka and turn it into a drinking game.
There we go. Everybody, get your Steinhardt or whatever it is.
It is Steinhardt.
Yes, Steinhardt. Habanero Vodka, and
that's right.
Join Andre in a bit of drinking.
Usually a Scotch and a gin man, but this one's pretty good. So we wake up on the island.
Scotch, actually.
Introduce the inhibitor collar, which is they establish that will be turned off and let you work, and that after the dam is completed, they will let you go, which is very I think anybody that's seen any movie or knows anything about slavery knows that when someone tells you, like, oh yeah, just dig this 6-foot hole and afterwards I'll let you go. Basically it's like they're not going to let you go.
Oh yeah, it's like I'm going to do something highly, highly illegal to you.
Yes,
and then we're just going to
let you go afterwards until the deed is done. And just
not to mention, you all have superpowers that could
you're definitely not going to come back and attack us, nor are you going to tell the world about what just happened here, which is highly illegal. I mean, I'm sure
not Sunfire. He's a hush hush kind of guy.
Well, he is Japanese, right? So, they're pretty good at secrets, from what I understand. But the motivation is really weird, and also very strange that people would swallow it so much, because all the mutants, except for basically our intrepid heroes, swallow this story that they're going to be let go once this dam is done. So as we mentioned, there are all kinds
Blob's like, shut up, kid. We're all getting out of here. Like,
there's Blob. Yes, there's Blob, there's Sunfire, there's North Star, there's a bunch of these regular mutants just hanging out. I'm disappointed that Sunfire didn't get his sweet mask. But we do see that later, which is nice.
He's just there to dry concrete, which is hilarious. It's like, do they really need to risk him using their superpowers against him to dry this concrete rather?
He's got to dry it evenly, though.
The machine, well, hopefully he does. They don't want.
Also, I don't think we mentioned Thunderbird, who is seen quite a bit in the background.
It's probably.
Or is it Warpath? Okay,
it's probably Warpath.
Why is it probably Warpath? They're twins, aren't they?
Because they're. Thunderbird is dead in his first mission. If they stick to
in the comics, but we didn't see him yet in the series.
But also, this is really X-Force heavy in its cameos, and he was on that X-Force team with Farrell, who's in this same episode.
Side note: Thunderbird is coming back in Marvel Comics, and my next guest on the Graphic Histories podcast, David Cutler, is the one who has redesigned his look for the comics. And
did he? He is back. It happened in a recent issue, just like this week.
Yeah, that new comic is the character is designed. The new design is by my old roommate, actually, David Cutler, who is doing the art in that comic for Marvel Comics. So,
who we're going to have on the show here soon, I believe.
Yes, I believe so. He's a big fan of this as well, and has given us some episodes he'd like to be in on. So I think he will be in the future, and he'll be hilarious. You will definitely.
When were you guys roommates?
Oh God, as when in college, so like 2004, 5, somewhere around there. When he finished university. He didn't know what he wanted to do, so I was in Truro working, and he decided to move here for a bit. And we had a 3-bedroom apartment that we shared with another person who's a terrible roommate. And then he was planning.
There's always one. I figured it was you.
No. I'm an exemplary roommate. If you ever want to live with someone, it's me. I'm neat. I'm tidy. I don't like messes. I always clean up after myself.
You want to come over?
Pardon?
You want to come over?
Sure. So anyway, I was going to get an apartment by myself because he's planning on moving away. So I said, well, I'll get a 1-bedroom and we'll figure out where you sleep until you're ready to move. And then we end up living in a 1-bedroom apartment together for about a year before he ended up moving out, which was great because the rent was super cheap. But I had a bedroom, and then we had like a couch in the living room with a space between the wall and the couch that he lived on a bed. That's where he slept. It was actually pretty good. Like, Dave's a really good guy, and I'm really happy for what he's doing in Marvel. But anyway, yes, so Thunderbird is coming back. But anyway, Warpath probably in the background. So they're constructing the dam. The second they turn off the collars, Storm snaps to action to try to escape and shoots some of the guys out of the way, takes off in the sky, knocks the guy out with the little box that controls the collars. Then she then they reactivate it. She loses her power. She falls into the water that's at the bottom of the dam, and then is quickly taken over by a Sentinel who is just hanging out under the water, waiting for this opportune time to pop out and snag Storm as she escapes. He brings her up.
Those overgrown dweebs.
Oh, it's overgrown dweebs.
Sentinels,
90s talk. Right? I love it.
There's always more gators in the bayou.
Yeah, that is
I
one
love
of the
that
ones
line.
I figured you'd have because
It's a great line.
yeah, like I know you like your Gambit lines, and there's a lot of great ones. That's for
And
sure.
I like my nature references as well.
Yes,
So,
yeah. It's always got to be something that's Louisiana, like that's Louisianan. I guess if that's the word.
you
Something
could have said there's
Cajun.
always more gumbo in the pot.
It's something. It's got to be something like that. It can't be like some kind of colloquialism that anybody would say. It's got to be something related to where you're from. It has to be. That's how they hammer home that you're not, that you're ethnic in some way. You need to have some kind of Creole saying to go with whatever's going on. It's got to be gators, gumbo, anything like that could just
Crawdaddies.
Crawdaddies. Everybody just sounds like the bad guy from that Simpsons episode where they did the spinoff with Skinner and Wiggum. It's just like it is best to run. We have to flee. That sort of Cajun Creole stuff is hilarious. So so Gambit, they capture her. They're gonna the lead. Not the leader that appears. It's not Gyrick though either, is it?
Gyrick's there.
But he's not right there in the scene. It's Trask.
It might just
Oliver
be
Trask.
these guys.
No, it's Trask. So Trask is there
in this episode.
Yeah, he's the one making the Sentinels.
Oh yeah, right.
Yeah. So Trask appears, and Jubilee recognizes him from being in the the place that she was captured at before. And
Mutant Control Agency.
That's right. I can never remember the name of that place.
Wouldn't it be funny if 911 was just called the Human Control Agency, because they're there to help as well.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's kind of what they do. Like, you're not wrong. That is kind of what
Human
they
Control
do.
Agency.
It sounds way more nefarious than it needs to, but it's kind of true. It's like you'd be a lot more hesitant to call them, I think. You'd be like, it's like, this guy's dying. He's got a neck wound. Should we call the Human Control Agency?
Actually, never mind.
I think I'm going to stick this one. I'll be all right. I'll stick this one out.
The spurt's only going a few inches now.
I feel better. I'll pull through. So Trask basically as an example tells them the Sentinel to get rid of Storm, to which Gambit says no and explains that she has these powers and she can fill the dam with water to help them to spare her life. So he agrees that would be useful. That would be useful, I believe, is his line. And he throws her in the box.
We were just gonna wait for it to rain.
It's like you're building
they have a great plan with this dam. Do they have a river or anything that it's like blocking off?
Yeah, well, that's the point of a dam generally, right? You don't just build it and hope that a mutant or a storm will come to power it. You build it in a place where it's going to storm or rain, or there's a giant river running through it, so you get the tidal power.
See, that's what I thought too.
Yeah, well, I guess the Mutant Control Agency.
We're not engineers.
Well, when the president cracked down on them, they had to move south apparently and take up with despots in South American countries. So I guess the plans had to change.
Oh, which brings me to my favorite line. It's jumping ahead in the episode, but
this whole situation is collapsing. I'm going back to Washington.
Which would be Gyrick, who
Gyrick had enough.
Who he met at the Mutant Control Agency earlier, who has moved his work south when the president sort of disowned his actions.
Had enough of this dam building slavery. He's going back to Washington.
I'm going back to Washington where things make sense.
Yeah, exactly.
So
this is weird.
They throw Storm in the box, and of course her very tortured, very good voice acting in the torturedness of her.
She is good. All the voice actors are really
good.
They
are actually. And we'll talk some more about some other fun voice acting stuff later. But thrown in the box, and the claustrophobia, of course, makes that a terrible thing for her. And Jubilee mentions that, and Gambit says another thing about she's alive, and that's the important part. And then we go back to the mutants being locked up for the night after. Oh, no, they see some explosions in the distance, to which one of the guys says, "Oh, he's back," or that's him. Then they wrap up the mutants, say you're done for the day, exactly. And with this him, we don't know who it is, but I did mention it earlier, so if you're paying attention, you may know.
Might be this guy.
Hey, come on. That is true. If you want to point to a figure that couldn't be more 90s in his character design, it is Cable.
I like the Cable theme music.
It's pretty epic. pouches and shoulder blades, like and shoulder pads everywhere. In the 90s, everybody had massive shoulder pads and they had pouches.
So many
Ridiculous amounts of pouches everywhere on their ankles, on their remember Deadpool has them on his ankles.
Cyclops had a ton of pouches.
I mean, maybe it's a Rob Liefeld thing, but there are pouches everywhere in his designs. And then, of course, that followed him to Image with Youngblood and Bloodstrike and all those other books he did. But yeah, just pouches galore. More pouches than anyone could ever need. But I guess you always got a place to put your cell phone, so it's not necessarily a bad thing. So yes, we're locked in overnight. Jubilee managed to pick up a piece of wire while they were working. Use it to open her cell. Try to spring Gambit, who tells her he doesn't want to be sprung, and that she should, go on her own. Gambit's being rather coy and candid here.
Mm-hmm.
So Jubilee goes off. Then the power comes back on. There's a power. The power went down for a little bit because was another explosion?
It might have just been from that one from Cable there, maybe.
I don't know. I think it was a little later. Something was going on with the power, which is still not quite right. The power goes off for a bit. I feel like something happened. I can't remember what it was that made it go down. But anyway,
we'll blame Cable.
So it's funny because I watched this episode this morning. You think I'd remember it like no problem. But so the power comes back on. She runs back to her cell, locks herself back in so she doesn't get caught. She was trying to go spring Storm and it didn't go, to her benefit. Now we cut back to the remaining X-Men, who are Cyclops, Jean Grey, and Rogue, who are just chilling out. And I believe we get Wolverine's return here. Is that this?
He
is right
comes
here,
in and coughs a couple times. Said he was somewhere cold.
Yeah, and all he says is, "I'm back." like nothing happened. Like he just stormed off like a child with a tantrum, went north, fought Sabretooth, destroyed an Inuit village, and then just comes back and he's like, and he makes like a little nod, like Wolverine. It's a friggin' healing factor, and he's coughing.
Right,
I gotta. I was somewhere cold. It's like, yeah.
I guess Cyclops got over it. He was really mad at Wolverine.
He was so mad. It was like your best friend just left you. Like your best friend said, "We're not." Like didn't even say we're not friends anymore. Just ghosted you, disappeared. Got a new girlfriend, left town, never saw him again. And he just shows up, and he's like, "Yeah, I'm back." And then you're like, "All right, I guess this is where we're going." I mean, Cyclops was so mad. It was so mad. Like, So
he got over it. He meditated on it.
I think this calls for another one of these. So he was a very mad person.
Mm-hmm.
So Wolverine shows up. They say, well, Cyclops makes a joke about. Do you have this clip?
Cyclops? No.
Yeah, about the Genoshan phone company.
No.
All right. So Cyclops says he gets a busy signal while trying to call Genosha again to meet his friends. And he says, remind me not to invest money in the Genoshan phone company. Because, when you're investing, what you do is you invest in phone companies specifically. That is where the money is if you want to invest in the phone companies. This that was in the 90s. You made your money.
AT&T.
You made your money investing in phone companies. That's what happened.
Yeah.
So anyway, they decided
it wasn't Microsoft.
Yeah, damn. Apple. Should have got some money in there. So they agree they're going to take the Blackbird down to Genosha and see what's going on. Professor X opts to stay behind, saying he has some work to do. Then
real sketchy,
Yeah,
I have
pretty mysterious.
To do. Mm-hmm.
Pretty mysterious, and they're definitely sowing seeds for what's to come.
Yep.
Because after they leave, he has a call in to I can't remember the name of the organization, but he says he wants to speak to Moira McTaggart, who is a name if you know anything about the X-Men, you will know. And says to tell her it's from
your
an
island
friend.
there in Scotland.
And that it's from an.
And the bad guys
that's more seeds to be sown.
That she invented the collar.
Yes, they do mention later where when the bad guys are talking where these wonderful collars came from, and that the mutant control agency may want to have access to these, and they start working up a deal on it, saying that there was a brilliant scientist named Moira McTaggart that invented them, which is interesting.
That's a funny scene, actually. It's just like,
how much is it worth to you to have that man Cable eliminated?
Eliminated is the other word they use instead of kill.
Yes, eliminated. Yeah, it's so nice. It's so nice and innocent. Nobody gets murdered.
Reminds me of Star Trek with the Ferengi
destroyed and eliminated and wasted and totaled. Nobody's murdered. There are no widows. They're just gone. just gone.
Totals can be good things.
It reminds me of this old Canadian PSA, which I used to watch. It used to be on TV when I was a kid, which is like an old man and a kid sitting in a boat. And the kid finishes his bottle of juice and he says, Grandpa, what do I do with this bottle? And the grandpa says, just throw it overboard. And the kid goes, where will it go? And he goes, away.
Is this a pro littering ad?
No, like that's the point is you shouldn't do this is the end of the PSA. The grandpa's the one at fault here. But it's just where will it go? Away. I feel like you could sum up almost every problem with humanity with that. Like climate change, denial, all that sort of stuff.
Out of sight, out of mind.
It'll work itself out somehow. So next morning,
if you leave it alone. That's the key, though.
If you watch that movie, Don't Look Up, which I highly suggest on Netflix, that's the whole point. Is that humans have a really good way of, ignoring terrible things that we might make a difference in changing for stupid, greedy reasons.
The X-Men wouldn't do that, so let's talk about them.
The X-Men are heroes.
Yes,
goddamn heroes. Mm-hmm. So next morning, Jubilee notices Gambit's missing from his cell. It appears the other mutants have accepted the plan. Just to wait for... Oh, wait. No. Yeah. So she mentioned about trying to escape the night before, some of the mutants, but all the mutants are like, don't want to get in trouble because they think that after the dam is built, they're going to be let go. They're like, we're going to get out of here soon. We'll finish
weight into it, pretty boy.
The other mutants were being kind of rude to the X-Men.
Yeah, Blob's kind of a jerk.
Blob is a jerk.
Yeah, so then and I mean, I can't say I blame them. I know some of these guys later team up with the old Brotherhood of Mutants there. And if your experience with humans is that they trap you and want you to build a dam, I can see why you may want to be on Magneto's side.
A lot of them, really. Pyro, Avalanche, Mystique. There's a lot of Brotherhood in there.
Yeah, for sure.
A couple Alpha Flight. They're always cranky.
So Gambit's missing the next morning. Then, they say they took him in the night, basically, and the other mutants seem more apropos to go along with her plan now, waiting for her signal. So she says that, and her plan is so dumb. It's like,
it's just not a good...
She's like, the guard that has the box is by the door. We walk by him to go out. I'll just grab him, take the box, and then they can't stop us. So that's the plan. Like, nobody's thought of that before. Certainly not the security guards or the guy with the box, that's for sure. So she knocks him down, takes the box, tries to turn it off. It doesn't work. And then she's put in isolation next to Storm, in which she's told that one of the other mutants ratted on her, basically. And that's why the box plan didn't work. If it wasn't for that.
Storm's in a bad way in there, too.
Do not be afraid, child. I will make a snowstorm. When the sun rises...
Snowstorm, please.
No, Storm, please, you're not making any sense.
She's like totally out to lunch.
I will make a snowstorm when the sun rises. It's like, oh, geez, we got to get Storm out of this box.
Like totally broken mentally. And I love how like the second she's out of the box, she's just back to normal. Like that's how mental health works. You know?
That's how Storm works. Storm's an incredibly badass.
She's just like
doesn't like small places.
I will make a snowstorm, child. Like it's like right out of a horror movie. Like, yeah, Storm, please, you're crazy.
Storm had basically this plan that they end up doing later in the beginning, where she's just like, in the very beginning when they shut the cars off, she's like, "Now, Gambit and Jubilee," and like they're all just like, "Nah." But like, she's the as I always say, the leader of the X-Men. She was expecting everyone to follow her, and if had they done it, they'd have been out of there. But
I don't know about that. They did have that big old Sentinel. There were more gators, gators in the bayou, if you will.
There were more gators in the bayou.
There were more gators in that bayou.
Gators in the bayou.
It's so stupid. I love it. All right, so then we see the leader. Oh, my favorite line in the whole thing is at one point when, like, so they're all slaves, and it's been established they're slaves, and they're going back to their cells after a hard day of slave labor, to which they're not paid for. To which a little voice box up in the corner. Do you have this? Do you have this in your thing?
What's that?
You got to where it says, "Remember, the leader loves you."
Oh well,
that's the best one. That's the best one.
It's
it's okay. It's okay.
Sort of close.
It is the best one. There's something where they're all going back to their cells, and it says like, "Good work, good work."
Enjoy yourselves.
It's like a good day's work, and remember, the leader loves you. That's what it says when they go back.
I forgot about the leader loves you part. I should have grabbed that.
It's like he's a dictator that's holding you up to slave labor, and it's like, remember, he loves you.
Anyone who just
like,
calls themselves the leader, they're always the person you want to follow.
Yeah, who we establish. So then the leader of Genosha speaks with the owners of the dam. We've established he's just called the leader. He doesn't really have a name. He's dressed like Ben Franklin for some reason. He's got like a powdered wig and those robes that we saw as lackey linting off there earlier.
Oh, I do have this one.
Be happy in your work.
Yeah.
The leader loves you.
They're kind of combining like some Jim Jones stuff, Jonestown, with like some despot dictator in South American country, government destabilization kind of thing.
Even some like hardcore communist kind of dictatorship.
Yeah, a little bit. The leader loves you. So, they're a bit dissatisfied with the power outages in the local town because of all the power coming from the dam. I believe that might be the reason why the power went out earlier. They're advised that the dam will eventually power their factory itself. Yeah, so the town is a little upset that the factory is drawing so much power and causing power outages. To which they're saying, well, the dam will be our power source once it's complete. And then we find out what the dam is.
Their whole thing. Their whole thing is to just get this big power source to build Sentinels. What
the dam, in fact, is a Sentinel making factory in which we have a large Sentinel that's like an easy bake oven for Sentinels called the Master Mold, who has like a chest piece that just opens and a new Sentinel pops out. As babies are born, there's just a hole comes out of the lady and the baby just comes out slowly. That's how it works, right? Right in the stomach. The chest area.
That's how it works.
As far you have a child, I'm sure you're familiar.
Remember they build them very human-like.
That's right. Yeah,
decapitate them to kill them.
Exactly. That's what
they have to. They have to say things before they can do them.
So
things like that.
So when questioned about the rebellion, why they let the mutants rebel a little bit, he says it was important to break their spirits. And shows the other people who turned in the other mutants in their plan, and it was Gambit, of course, who stated that they weren't really his friends since they don't trust him, and just so he might as well help these guys, just like them, they the same thing for him as the X-Men go. And he also tells Gyrick the name of the X-Men, which he knew before, but says they call themselves the X-Men.
X-Men, what's so special about these X-Men?
Yeah, and then we establish
sick of hearing it.
Yeah, he does hear it quite a bit. So then we establish that the who this person that's attacking their outposts and stuff is a man that the general that helped the general become the previous general of the resistance become the leader of the country after a coup. But then he turned on this man and became basically a dictator in his own right. And that man being Cable, who apparently is slumming it up in Genosha now, helping despots, which is pretty far removed from his original motivation. I didn't remember how he's introduced in the series. I only remember him going after Apocalypse, but I guess that comes later. So, that's very good info. You have that, but you don't have the leader loves you? Come on.
Yeah, I can't be everywhere. Everything to all people.
So Gambit seems to be, a traitor, as it were, and anybody who knows anything about fiction knows that he definitely is not. But they're taking him back to the prison to wait out until when they need him again. Gambit says, want to see a card trick. He makes all the cards go up in the air. When the bad guys are distracted, he just hits them. I don't know why he's letting cards to begin with and jumps out of the car. It's such a great escape plan. He's like, want to see some cards? Throws them in the air and just boom.
They just blow away in the wind.
Yeah, he has no powers. He's wearing the collar. So
yeah, for
some reason so he hits the ground. The bad guys turn to shoot him, which of course they're going to do. And then their car blows up. Gambit, because Cable has a gun that apparently works just like Gambit's abilities. It seems to make something full of energy and then explode. He just shoots it with the gun. They call it a pulse rifle or something later, but it's
He has those in the comics too. They work that way too. He just shoots things and they explode. Yeah, so he shot the car. The bad guys jump out. The car explodes. Gambit goes to reach for a gun. The bad guys dropped. Cable steps on it, introduces them, asks where the general is or whatever. As in that picture, Gambit points to him, says that away. Cable, that over there.
Yeah, he's like, he's over that way. He's over in the bayou. So,
the gators.
Yeah, Cable gives him a key that he picked up from one of the guards that unlocks the inhibitor collars, and goes off to do his cabling, which is taking out this dictator that has wronged him. Gambit uses it to get out of the collar. Then he runs in, blows. Like Sentinels are always incredibly strong or incredibly weak depending on what they're needed for in the story. Because Gambit just runs up to the prison and blows up the Cardinal Sentinel like nothing. He just is like, oh, he goes, Monsieur Sentinel. Like he's got, and the Sentinel like looks at him and he has like a box of like screws and stuff that he powers up and then throws at Sentinel and blows him apart. But I just love the formality, Monsieur Sentinel.
Monsieur Sentinel.
Monsieur Sentinel. You get more. You got to do the Bayou French. It's different than the France French.
Oh, I know. What am I?
Kind of like the Acadian French.
I'm not doing.
Well, there's Acadian French, which is like the French settlers in this area, New Brunswick and Nova Scotia. Then there's the Quebec French. Then there's France French, and then there's the Cajun French, which is actually related to the Acadian French because the Cajuns is a term Acadian, which comes from Acadians that were expelled by the English and sent down to. So there's your history lesson. Sent down to that part of America by the British, but are originally French Acadian settlers here in Nova Scotia.
Actually, practically Nova Scotian.
The area I live in is called Old Barns, and it's called that because this was an Acadian settlement that was torched by the British, and they were all expelled down to Louisiana, and the only few buildings that were left were old barns. Which is why this
interesting. Well, they could use those.
It is a farming community, so that stuff stacks. The more you drink it, the more it stacks. So
it's like I was saying about my drink last week. If you just keep topping her off a little, it's still the same drink. So
it's good to have a little water nearby. So yeah,
Storm's good for that.
It's true. She is. It spared her life. So Gambit gets them out of the box. Score Storm snaps out of her insane delirium. They try to get the other.
Summon the full power of the storm.
So then we cut to. I love Storm. So then we cut to them releasing all of the mutants, trying to get them to help. They don't. Yep. They're like, we're on our way. Fuck you guys, which is incredibly terrible considering they've been slaves and just freed by these people. And they're like, nope, you're on your own. Goodbye. And they just take off.
But if we don't stop this dam, they're just going to build all these Sentinels. Sunflower's just like, yeah, we'll take Genosha back and then we'll deal with this whole dam.
I feel like a few of them hang around and help because don't Aurora and North Star hang out and do something? They do something cool. They like beat up some guards. Basically, I think they beat up all the guards around them. Yeah, the mutants team up and beat up all the guards. And then when they want them to help them destroy the dam, they're like, no, we're out of here. They're like, we'll deal with we'll I think what is Sunfire's like says something along the lines of like, we'll deal with the Sentinels when we control Genosha. So like they're gonna like go off and like take over Genosha themselves, which I mean they still have people that live there. They're like, we're going to take over this country for us. It's like, what about the people, like the village that we met earlier? Like, I'm sure there's some innocent people down there that are just trying to live their sweet little Genoshan lives. What about those people? Fuck them. Yeah. We're going to run. We got this island now. It's ours.
They're new mutant overlords.
I, for one, welcome my new mutant overlord. Yeah, and can lure them into their underground sugar caves. So then we cut the Cable who's breaking in. Oh yeah, so the X-Men are on their way. We cut the Cable who is getting in to attack the leader. He goes into the mutant facility, blows up a few Sentinels, works his way through. He intercepts the leader's car, prevents him from escaping. Which basically doesn't really say what happens to the leader here. It's just kind of assumed he's eliminated.
Like everybody, because a big giant tidal wave comes and like.
Well, yeah,
people just laughs. He's like,
yeah. So while Cable's dealing with these guys, basically like fighting them and like just destroying them, we cut to Storm, who decides she's going to use her powers to, basically. So she's going to use her powers to wash away the dam. Now, the point of the dam is to deal with overloading amounts of water rushing at it. In fact, that's good for the dam. That's what they want. So perhaps because it's not finished, I guess. But they are getting power from it.
I also like Storm's really elaborate way of just saying no. Like Gambit's like, well, none of us have the power to take down that dam. And she's just like, no. But there is a power greater than us in the clouds, which just basically means her power.
Yeah, which is her.
Like, so she could have just said, yes, actually, I can do it.
Yeah.
She's just
Nice
like, no,
way to
we
say
can't.
I have powers.
But the clouds. Like, but she likes to give credit where credit is due, I guess.
She's very dramatic.
She's humble and dramatic at the same time.
She's very dramatic. She's a very dramatic person. So she brings the storm. They washed away the dam and then the master mold notices that water is coming, so it gets up to walk away, and then it's still plugged in. It even says, "Do you have that line?"
I do.
Yeah.
I am still plugged in.
Which he can't unplug himself until he finishes saying, of
Which
course,
is such a human,
because that's how Sentinels work.
it's such a human way to phrase that. Like, it's a really weird way it phrases that. So,
we missed this earlier too.
I have apprehended the leader of the mutant rebellion.
Which is Jubilee. He did catch his Jubilee. It's, I've apprehended the leader of the mutant rebellion.
they have another line earlier,
little
which is
girl.
something oddly Sentinel that I can't remember that it said. Almost like "ow" or "ouch" or something weird, but it was something that wasn't.
Same.
It was something that was not.
Oh no!
You have
think
it?
I have that one too.
Yeah.
But just keep talking. I'll see if
Like,
I
why
have
do
it.
robots feel pain? It's like in Star Wars. I think it was in Revenge of the Sith when I first started noticing a few robots going like "ow" and like "ow," and like when they're hurt, it's like you're a robot. Like, why was I programmed to feel pain?
Yeah, exactly. Well, I don't know if I.
You don't have it? All right, it's something ridiculous.
It's
when it falls down the cliff, it like trips, and it says like activate
rocket
boosters.
boosters.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
it's like way
exactly.
too late. It just hits the ground and explodes. So it's like activating the boosters just as it's hitting the ground. Like, its reaction time is terrible, especially for devices created to apprehend the most powerful beings on the planet. You know, you think
Things
they
that should, in theory, have computer speed when it comes to thinking.
Well, this is the 90s, so they're working on the same
True.
computer as like an iPod Classic. Just the same
yeah.
computing power as
The internet was slow back then.
a Zune, one of those. So they wash away, and then we cut to Cabo's beating up these guys, and the master mold. All the Sentinels get washed away, which is funny because the Sentinel that captured Storm at the beginning of the episode was underwater, so water doesn't seem to bother these things. However, now they're washed away, and that destroys them. So while doing
great
so,
force of the waves and
is in the clouds.
Nature. In the clouds.
So Cable gets washed. Cable's beating up these guys as the water comes, and the other guys can't get away, and he just laughs. He's like, ah ha ha ha, as the water storms and washes away. Cable's such a badass in this. I really do like.
Oh
it.
yeah.
So and assuming that's not the last we see of him, but it's pretty much assumed that Storm just murdered all these people. It's not Cable, I guess, but all the rest are definitely dead. So, the leader and his ilk. I mean, Gyrick got away earlier, and he was going back to America, where things make sense.
Going back to
and
Washington.
and Gyrick even mentioned that he had to go south, or he came south when the president, messed up. Or no, Gambit says something about that. How when the president nixed his plans, he probably came south or something like that. Which is another little funny dig at how America seems to get its claws into everything. So the mutants of Genosha won't assist. Storm's creating the weather. It's cracking the dam. She faints from all the power she's using in the clouds, and she's picked up by Rogue before hitting the ground. Who are the X-Men have finally just coincidentally arrived at Genosha just in time to save Storm from falling out of the sky. And Rogue has a fun line there too, doesn't she? Do you have that one? I know you like your Rogue lines. You don't have this one either? Oh, no. So it's something that Rogue says, which is just classic Rogue, like,
Of course I do.
Oh,
You look nervous as a long-tailed cat in a room full of rocking chairs.
that is a very old one. Come on, that is the second episode. First episode. It was one of the
That's all I got for Rogue.
It's Night of the Sentinels, anyway.
It was the first one.
So they pick the X-Men up, then they head back. Basically, the other X-Men don't have a lot going on. This episode mainly just picking them up after getting to Genosha and heading back home. And when they get back home, they notice to their surprise that the X-Mansion has been totaled. Not killed, totaled. Eliminated.
It can't be.
Yeah, Wolverine just pops his claws for no reason, too, like out of anger that it's just like nobody's there to fight. And like the claws come through his hands. It's got to be painful. Why do that for no reason? Anywho.
Now, we'll see if it's true, but I read that because they were like drawn or filmed in a reverse order or something, that in the next episode, the mansion won't be destroyed. But we'll see if that's true.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I read that, but we'll see.
I'm disappointed.
Because I know Juggernaut shows up next
Really? Is that the Juggernaut bitch? Do we get all that next episode?
Yeah, the Unstoppable Juggernaut's next.
Wow, man, they threw all the meme stuff at you early, didn't they?
Oh yeah.
All right, so that is the end of the episode. Another to be continued. The season is just one continuous to be continued.
Oh well.
Why am I still looking at this picture?
Oh, did I leave that on there? So
Yeah.
I did. Let me take that. Well, it's dramatic.
It is. I was like, well, Davin's really holding this for dramatic effect.
Well, I guess we're.
That's what we're here to find out.
The ratings from 1 to X.
So, well, before we get to that, I have two things. Oh, actually, I'll bring it up in my points. That'll be funner.
All right.
So
I'll go first this time.
Do it.
I give this one a 7. This one I was expecting to love and have like a 9 or something, but to me, and it kind of brings me back to your point from last episode where you said the Genosha stuff didn't need to be in that episode. It would have been better if it was just sort of its own thing. And I felt like with Slave Island here, it needed to be 2. It needed to be a 2-part, like a more direct 2-parter. It needed more. Everything just happened so fast, and so much happened so fast. It kind of just didn't have as much weight as maybe it could have had.
I agree. I think 7 is a generous rating, but I am going to give it the same for a lot of reasons, because where it falls apart, I don't want to say it falls apart because it's not like a total dumpster fire. I did forget to mention when going through it that Jubilee says something to actually, I'll save for my points. So I wouldn't say it's like a dumpster fire of an episode or fails in any way. It is a fine episode in its own right. I do think it gets bonus points for all the little guest stars, which are fun. Which is kind of a nice way of building a wider, world building a wider universe that we're going to be exposed to as time goes on. So that did give it a couple extra points for me. So yeah, I would agree. I think it's a 7. Since we always agree, I can't pick another title than you.
Seems to be the case.
To be the same. We are the same person, you and I. This is a split screen. This is I'm locked in a box, and this is just me making a snowstorm.
We're the angel and devil on some random person's shoulder.
That's right.
Well,
there's always more gators in the bio.
And there's always more points to talk about, Gambit. So why don't we talk about our X points? Who wants to go first? You want to go first? You had a couple there ready to go.
This episode features the first appearance of Cable in any way outside of the comics. This is the first depiction of Cable in any kind of media that wasn't a comic book. So I think they did a cool introduction of Cable. I don't know if they needed to shoehorn into this. Like, I feel like his storyline in itself is great with trying to prevent this future that he comes from, which is kind of the motivation for a few X-Men, i.e. Bishop and some other people. But
he was sort of a MacGuffin. Like, he showed up so Gambit could get free and then free the rest of them.
It does seem, I mean, they could have had a way of Gambit getting free on his own. They didn't need to have Cable involved. In fact, he didn't.
Card trick.
But like, why? Yeah, exactly. But why? Like, it just seems odd to have him be there and be the reason this general or this leader became the leader, because he helped him and then the leader turned on him and then he makes his mission to stop him. I mean, I think
by tidal wave and bye Cable.
Well, and also, like, I do like that he was laughing when the tidal wave was coming, because they really make him a badass, like hard badass. Like, he's got the cool music, he's got the gravelly voice, he says all the right things, the cool things. He laughs in the face of death, basically. Like, he's set up 100% to be the mysterious badass. They do a good job of setting that up. I just don't know that he's really required here. It seems odd that, like, a character whose motivation is to stop the destruction of the world in the future, basically, or a horrible apocalyptic future, not to use a pun, but I'm going to, caused by apocalypse, that he would take time out and slum it up in Genosha and help, some dictator or some freedom fighter take over a country and then be angry and hurt when that freedom fighter turns out to be a dictator himself. So
I hope they flesh that out a lot better. Like, the leader must be from the future too, or something. Like, maybe
I doubt they will. I highly doubt they will, but I would be interested to see if they do. But yeah, I like the introduction of Cable. I don't know if it needed to be here, but I think he's depicted well. It's cool.
Well, my first point will have something to do with Cable too then.
Ooh.
So when Cable shows up, Gambit's like, "Who are you?" And what does he say? "I am the wild man of Borneo."
He does say that, which is another cool hip thing. You want to be
It
cool.
makes no sense. The only thing I can think it could possibly be referencing is this movie from like 1940 called The Wild Man of Borneo. And when you read the plot of that movie, I still don't get the connection. So I think I actually have to go watch that movie, and then maybe I'll get why Cable calls himself the Wild Man of Borneo.
When you want to
Otherwise,
establish a cool, mysterious character, what you want to have him do is reference a movie from
by
50 years
Frank
ago.
Morgan movie.
Yes, from 50 years ago. That's what you want to do. A movie the kids definitely have heard of. That's for sure.
The Wild Man
a lot
of
of kids,
Borneo.
a lot of Saturday morning 90s kids watching Fox's X-Men are going, I know that movie reference. I definitely saw that movie.
Just call me McLean. No, call me the Wild Man of Borneo.
Borneo.
Anyway, that's my point.
Yeah,
Weird. I've got to figure that one out. I'll bring that one up again some other day.
All right, my second point. This quote. When Gambit, earlier on, I forgot to mention in my thing, Jubilee says something to Gambit, like when it's revealed that Gambit didn't really sell them out, and it was all part of a long plan to get everybody out, but only really worked on the fact that Cable saved it.
Jerk! You made me think you were a traitor!
That's it.
Is that the
and
one?
then Gambit said, yeah, that's it. And then Gambit says something along the lines, how do you know I'm not still, or something like that? So he's still playing a mysterious loner kind of character, and I like that. Like I like that he's still even when it becomes revealed that he wasn't a traitor and he was helping the whole time, he still leaves a little room for being like, well, maybe you don't know me as well as you think you do. And I think that's
Petit.
Yeah, I think it's
maybe
in
you
fact,
had it right the first time. He's like,
yeah, that's what he says. That's what he says. Yeah, which is a fun little. Like I like the little. Like Gambit's a cool character. The way he's depicted in this is cool. I do think he should invest in some actual clothes instead of his Gambit outfit all the time.
That's a teaching moment he's doing to Jubilee there too.
Yeah,
he's just like,
that is
you know,
true.
always stay on your toes and keep your wits.
And never trust a Frenchman, which is important.
Yeah.
But there's a
this is the guy with the French last name and can get away with it.
A French full
first
name.
Yeah, exactly.
My middle name is Julian, which is also French. So they're all
there
French.
you go. I
But
can
there's
start
a lot.
bad mouthing Vikings or something if you want.
Your name is Davin Skellhorn. Like that's like the most Viking. Like that's like somebody like a Game of Thrones. Like when you pick like what month you're born from, what let your middle initial is. You're trying to come up with your Game of Thrones name. Like that's what your name is.
House Skullhorn's pretty hardcore.
So there's a line earlier when he's carrying her through the woods, and
I have that too.
Yeah.
Yes, I do. We have that one right here.
Just needlessly mean.
Yeah. Oh, it is. It is. There it is.
Right.
How do you sweat so much, Petit, and not lose weight?
Is that the one?
I hate you!
Oh, I hate you.
Oh, I hate you. Why do you sweat so much, Petit, and not lose any weight, you fat bitch?
Because she was in the box with Storm.
That's
like,
true.
In that
She
box
sweated
the
out the
whole
box.
time. And
Also, I like she wakes up at some point, like when they're in. This is another side note. I'll save it for my next point. You go ahead.
All right. Well, my next one, I'm gonna say, well, you know what? There was a good Cyclops moment in this one, and
God, he was barely in it. What was it?
Yep, he was, but it showed that he's not blindly loyal to Professor, right? Because Professor,
Oh,
when
yes,
he
yes,
had
I
his
did
one
notice
line. He was all creepy when he said that, like Professor, and everyone else was just like, okay, whatever. And like Cyclops walks out, and he just like stops and looks back in, and he's just like, that's some weird, creepy stuff. And that's how he is in the comics too.
Yeah.
He's the most loyal to Professor X, but he's also the most critical.
I did notice that, and I really liked it.
Which is an appropriate combo for a leader.
Yeah, I forgot to mention that. That was good. Shit, I would have been. I think that was one of my points. But anyway, we'll.
Oh,
I got lost.
Stolen.
It's all right.
All right.
Because I did
You're
like
next.
that as well. Because there was a little moment where it was like, "What? Like that's weird. That's off," and it was cool to see. Cool to see that recognition in Cyclops. So
a lot of nice little subtle things in this show.
Yeah, in this episode especially, because like it's not just your typical superhero thing where everybody just runs into battle and fights a bad guy. There's like lots of inter issues with the group, and it really and as far as cartoons go, this is right on the cusp of when that started becoming a thing. I'm not sure if I would say 100% X-Men introduced it, but I would say they probably did a lot of it. Like you didn't see a lot of episodes of Captain Planet or something where the Planeteers are not trusting Captain Planet or disagreeing with each other. Yeah, or not trusting Splinter. You're right. No, totally. So my other point was when Jubilee awakens from her bed, she took her gloves are placed neatly by her pillow, so she took her gloves off to sleep, but she's still wearing her trench coat. She's still wearing the trench coat. So like as she's reaching for the gloves and she wakes up and pulls the blankets back, she's still in her trench coat. So the gloves come off. You take those off when you sleep, but the trench coat stays on.
Could be a leaky roof. It's basically a prison. You know, it's a labor camp.
I guess.
All right. Well, my next point. Oh yeah. Well, it's funny that like all it really took to break out of this prison. I mean, there's sort of the whole gambit thing, but the big breakout at the end, all it took was just like the slightest bit of coordination. And I mentioned earlier that Storm thought that would happen as soon as she commanded it. But really, it's funny how it takes like a teenage girl to come into this labor camp and be, not that her gender matters, teenage boy, same thing, but to like unite them all and be the one that has like this kind of coordination that can unite the prisoners to break out. It's just kind of funny. I thought it was a good Jubilee. It's a good Gambit and good Jubilee episode.
It is.
They
It's
both
a
have
really
quite
good,
a bit of character growth.
It's a really good Gambit episode to talk about my previous point. It really does sort of give him a little more of that roguishness, which we got hints of before, but it really hammers home that bit of his character, which I liked. So I thought that was a good idea. For this, for my fourth point, the Sentinels. I like since episode 1, they've been this overarching villainous, presence that in they killed Morph. They captured.
They're the representation of the humans' prejudice, essentially.
Yeah, but in this episode, they kind of come off goofy for the most part. They
did in some of the other ones too, when they're hiding behind trees and stuff.
That is true, but I feel like they definitely seem less threatening this episode because they're basically just prison guards instead of like these capture kill bots that we've been established as they were earlier. So I don't know. I just feel
like downgrade.
Yeah, a little bit for the Sentinels, and I feel like if we're going to have these overarching villains, they need to either kill someone in the next episode to reestablish that they're important, or eliminate
Total
someone in the next episode. Or Total. I like Total. I think Total's the best one. It's
Total is the best
90s.
one.
It's incredibly 90s.
So, Jubilee's very 90s.
Yeah, the varying degrees of Sentinel abilities, I feel like could use a little work.
All right. Well, my fourth point is just, I sort of mentioned it before, but characters with theme songs. I'm going to be interested to see how many characters, like guest characters, get their own theme songs. I know Bishop has one. His is sort of like Cable's, but it's more cowboy-like. It's like,
really?
It's like whenever you see
Bishop, odd that they would put Bishop. I guess Bishop's story, Bishop's sort of story ties into the Days of Future Past, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And Cable's is further down along the timeline, but I feel like the two, but I feel
divergent futures.
It's going to get fun and confusing quick.
Yeah, well, time travel, timey-wimey stuff always does. But I have a Star Trek podcast, so I can handle it. I'll guide you through it.
I'm a big Doctor Who fan, so I think I can, and Star Trek fan too. So I think I could fit in. So my
Fifth
final
point.
Well, I was going to say I'm going to do 5.5 and 5.5 points. So I'm going to talk about the cameos. So I enjoyed all of the cameos, and I feel like X-Men has such a wide oeuvre of comics from how long it's been around, and the show does a really good job of mining that and just placing these little bits in here and there. It's cool that we've seen, even just briefly, like Deadpool in like a full, in a dream sequence. We've seen Cannonball on the TV. We've seen Sunfire hanging out with Blob, and just sort of cherry picking and placing little spots when needed around the series. They're not afraid to lean hard into their their history and all these characters that are out there. So I feel like the world building part of that is really good.
And it makes you go, ooh, maybe I'll get to see this character again later in the series.
That is true. And if you have like a favorite obscure X-Men character, you might see him sometime soon, or her, or they, or whatever. But it's really cool in that way. So I really like the world building that's been done. I mean, in 7 episodes, we've gotten a ridiculous amount of stuff. We've got the Mutant Control Agency, we've got Genosha, we've got slave mutants, we've got Morlocks. You know, like they've thrown like this new age of deconstructed storytelling. Like I just finished the 3rd season of Lost in Space, and I really like that show. But over the scope of 3 seasons on Netflix, we've got one villain, robots, and then it gets dealt with after over 3 seasons. Like that's 30 episodes, you know what I mean, of that. In this show, we've already gotten a countless amount of villains and a countless amount of guest stars. And and it's only episode 7 we're on, right? 6.
Yeah.
So
7.
So, you know, it just leaves you hope for what you're going to see in the future. And I know there's so many cool different X-Men characters and villains, Omega Reds and all those guys that we're going to see in the future. So I'm excited for all that. And I know next episode is Juggernaut.
Yeah.
And do we get Gladiator and all that too? Lilandra?
Oh,
and all
yeah.
those guys?
Oh, we get all of it.
Man, like
this show is so good.
I almost feel like this show could benefit from perhaps adding a little bit of deconstruction into it. Like we don't need to introduce Juggernaut and aliens, you know, and the Gladiator and the Shi'ar and all that stuff. Like maybe just...
Oh, you mean in the next episode?
Yeah. We don't do that one? So I'm the Juggernaut bitch.
No, I don't think so. I don't think the Shi'ar.
So I'm the Juggernaut bitch is when they established... Is that... do you remember those?
Well,
that viral video?
That. I remember that viral video, yeah.
Yeah, I know. That's from the
Oh, you
video.
know, when it gets Elandra's... No, that's later.
That's later. Okay, cool. So this is a separate...
So
that's not the introduction of Juggernaut. That's just Juggernaut in a separate story. Okay. That makes way more sense to me.
This next one's the introduction of Colossus.
Oh, cool. All right.
Yeah,
awesome.
I'm pretty sure.
Well, I'm excited for that. My only... the 0.5 point that I'll throw in the end of this is Beast. We haven't seen him for like 4 episodes.
Oh, poor guy.
Poor Beast. He's in the intro. Although I've noticed that when they're running at each other at the end, Beast isn't in the group. We only ever see him in the title card where he gets his own little beast, but he's not running with the other X-Men.
Oh,
so you can kind of tell that maybe they really didn't think about him being a big part of the show until later.
Well,
because he hasn't been in like...
appreciated, I assure you.
I appreciate
your solicitude.
I do like me a pseudo-intellectual, that's for sure.
There you go.
Takes one to know one.
That's why we get along. Okay, well, my final point is just the kinship between Gambit and Storm, because Jubilee thinks Gambit's a traitor, a jerk, and a traitor. But even in her delirious state, and I wouldn't say it's because of her delirious state, Storm is just like, no, Gambit will save us, because they do have a bit of a kinship where, like, a lot of people in the X-Men, like Cyclops and even Jubilee, they're like, well, Gambit was a thief, he's mysterious. You know, you can't trust him.
I always forget,
because Storm grew up a thief on the streets of Cairo. She's like, being a thief doesn't necessarily mean you can't be trusted, you know, in this moment.
And I forget about that part of his history, because I remember reading those X-Men comics where he was a part of the Thieves Guild or something, right? It'll
be in this show as well.
Okay, cool. So yeah, that was always... I totally forgot about that until you just mentioned it.
Yeah, the Assassins Guild and the Thieves Guild, and they get into all that stuff. Oh,
90s cable. That's look at all those pouches. Those
guess that brings us to...
Hey, check this out.
Hey, check this out. Got to make this pretty quick. We're getting low on time here, but I'm going to go with Uncanny X-Men 235. Welcome to Genosha. It's the first appearance of Genosha in comics. You get Colossus here. We get Havoc, Disco Dazzler, Storm, Wolverine, Rogue, and Longshot.
Oh, Disco
Dazzler. Great lineup.
That's...
The Disco Dazzler.
Does Dazzler show up in the series?
I think she does, yeah.
Oh God, good. Okay, so I always make a fly recommendation based on what you say. Yeah. And on this one is going to be this. So when I was a kid, there's these Look and Find books. They're these big hardcover books that were like Where's Waldo, but with Marvel characters. I had a Spider-Man one and an X-Men one. And the X-Men one had a whole 2-pager on Genosha where you had to pick all the little things out of Genosha. So track down that incredibly obscure old book, Look and Find X-Men, and pick out all of the extra characters and the ones that they have, the ones they want you to see, and then in the back there's extra ones for you to spend extra time on if you have the time. So do it all. It's definitely going to be worth your time. Can't believe I just said that. You're going to have fun anyway. Look and Find X-Men book. It's old.
Okay, well, there you have it. Well,
What's wrong?
The women laugh at me.
What's wrong with Andre?
Women laugh at me. That's what's wrong with me. Look.
But you know what? I realized I was pigeonholing you into be negative. So if you want, we can talk about what's working with Andre.
You just yeah.
Or what's wrong with Andre. It's totally up to you.
Well, let's say Andre's been busy. Let's go with what's wrong with Andre. He's just been busy.
All right. What's wrong with Andre?
It's been a busy day. I had a doctor's appointment, a dentist appointment, work, a meeting for a board of directors I'm on. I got my booster shot today, which I just told them that I need to book it at the clinic, and they were like, "Oh, hey, we put you on the waiting list," and they called me immediately after they said they put me on the waiting list, told me they had one, so which is cool. However, I didn't talk about this before. We don't need to get into it because we have limited time. But I got myocarditis, probably from the second booster shot. So I was in the hospital for a few days, so I wasn't sure I'd be able to get that. But I could, and I did, and it's only been a day, but I feel fine. My heart hasn't exploded, so I think we're all okay.
Oh, good.
So, yeah, and now I have this, and I really enjoy doing this, and I'm very happy to start another year, being that we started pretty late into last year, on this podcast, so it's going to be a fun time. I like this journey we've begun together, Devin.
2022 will be the year of X-Rated, the X-Men review.
That's right. The MeUndies money is coming this year. MeUndies, Casper, Stamps.com, we got you. Spot. Wait, what's the other one? Squarespace. Squarespace is a big one. We want Squarespace money.
We have beards. We can manscape for them.
We can manscape. And when we're talking about cable, let's not forget about another version of cable.
We have the fine foliage to landscape.
I can't find this picture here.
Topiary. You see, we can do like T-Rexes and like like Edward Scissorhands and stuff.
And don't forget about Strife when talking about versions of cable from alternate timelines.
He'll probably get into the show too.
He's incredibly 90s. Look at that 90s Jean Grey and
he's as 90s as it gets.
Wolverine would not appreciate this. All right, so Wolverine saw this. He'd be storming off to another part of the world to get away from his problems.
All right,
so you have a segment. Remember, the leader loves you.
Well, you kind of stole my thunder on that one. I was going to say what's working. I was like, a year of this podcast. It's working pretty good so far.
It's been like 3 months of this podcast, or 2 months of this podcast. But yes, I agree.
In my podcast haze of a brain, it seems like a short time.
My life is pretty busy, and I try to be a little less as open as I used to be, just to preserve my mental health from not like overexerting myself. But this is something I'm glad I took a chance on because I'm really enjoying it. It's a lot of fun.
I think it's gonna be, and we get to watch X-Men the animated series.
It's a great excuse to go back and watch the series because I have to now. I need to prepare for the show, and exactly. It's not a chore because I really enjoy it. But it's nice that you have a reason to find the time. So yeah.
But it's hard to find a reason to go back and watch a 30-year-old show sometimes.
That's true. But I watch it when I do cardio, so and then I get it in there. It's all good.
Okay, well.
Let me know when the fun starts.
Because we're gonna party like it's '97. That's why.
We need like we need something like I guess you'd probably get in trouble for playing the music, but we need to find like a painfully 90s song to play for its partying like it's 97. Like
me and my fellow locutors will.
We need like Peaches. We need like Peaches by the President of the United States, or like Smash Mouth, or like something. Something that's like not the good music, not Nirvana or anything that's actually good, but like just something that's fun, like Blue, Eiffel 65.
Do the Evolution.
Ooh, well, that Pearl Jam's good.
Evolution, X-Men.
That is true. That song would be pretty seminal.
A little apropos.
All right,
but for party like it's a 97, all I have to really add this week is they are going to bring back Larry Houston, the director of every episode of this series, as a consultant, as well as Eric.
Sweet.
Yeah, as well as Eric and Julia Lewald, who write quite a few episodes of this series as well as consultants. And one of the voice actors they brought on to play one of the newer characters, or perhaps even to maybe do the voices of one of the characters of one of the actors who's deceased, is Jeff Bennett, who did the voice of Johnny Bravo. So Johnny Bravo is going to be an X-Men.
Want to see me comb my hair real fast? That's awesome.
So,
that's fantastic. Cool. No, I think this show could really benefit from a modern, like if you took the model of this show and how like deep it is with its own mythology and how and how they really explore these characters, and you put the modern stuff with it, like what's coming in really good modern cartoons, like your He-Man and those things that are on Netflix. I think you could really benefit from that, and I think this show will. So I'm super excited. I think it's gonna be awesome.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's wrap this up.
All right.
Why don't we? We're kind of you can contact us at xmenreviewshow@gmail.com. And to answer the question you're about to ask me, Andre, no one has emailed us yet. But you know what?
Get those emails.
Yeah, send us those emails. Tell us what you like about the show, what you like about the X-Men. Are you excited about X-Men 97? Of course you are.
Of course you are. Why wouldn't you be?
Also, you can follow us on, the Facebook, the Twitch, the YouTubes. Listen to us wherever you get your podcasts.
That's right.
Also, we have time for a quick plug. Listen to the Graphic Histories podcast. Tell us about that real quick there.
Unless things change, as I mentioned earlier, David Cutler will be my guest in the next episode, who is a current artist for Marvel. He's been doing a lot of great things with Indigenous representation in the Marvel Universe. He also created the design. He also created the design for the Indigenous Captain America, Joe Gomez, who was making the rounds on social media a few years ago, where they had different Captain Americas that represent different parts of America, and he was the Native American Captain America, and it's a really cool design.
It was. I remember that.
People, I think he's having a bit of a hard time lately with, just people being shitty in the comics community because it's different. They don't like it. But I think Dave's doing some amazing work, and his art's only gotten astoundingly better, and his design eye is fantastic. So I'm very excited to talk to Dave. It'd be great to catch up with him because I haven't talked to him really in a real conversation in a while. So I think it's going to be really good. And definitely check it out. My last episode was with the creator of Canadian comic hero, Captain Canuck, Richard Cummings, which is a really cool conversation.
I listened to it. It was a good episode.
Really he's an interesting guy. He's a very interesting guy. So it was really fun. Right, and don't forget about my friend here, Davin's podcast, Locutors of Trek.
Yeah, listen to Locutors of Trek. We got some trivia coming up soon. We have an episode coming out soon on the tragedy of Star Trek. And if you want one of these T-shirts, let us know. We'll make you a T-shirt. This one's for you, Morph.
That's right. We do talk about Morph a lot. And
also listen. Yes, we do.
And for a guy that was in one episode of the series,
This one's for you, Morph.
I had to get that in.
That's right.
Also listen to my cousin Dave and Jeff's podcast, Live Long and Podcast about Star Trek, and also Super Mater Brothers.
Oh, I like the new
logo. Yeah, right. So, check them out as well. Dave was a guest on a couple episodes ago. And
he was fun.
He's a good podcaster. Well, I guess that's it for us, I would say. What about you, Andre?
I think so. One more for the road.
Tip a glass. Yep. See you, everybody. 1, 2, 3.